Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. I wasn't really that bothered about this fight. I was in two minds as to whether to do a video, but there are a few talking points. So let's talk about Rolando Romero controversially stopping ISMAEL Barroso. And I say controversially stopping him. This was in the 9th round. And I have absolutely no idea why the referee, Tony Weeks, stopped the fight, because they were exchanging. Actually, at the time of the stoppage, they were in a corner and the camera was in the corner with them. So you saw them up close. And at no point, even though Barroso had been, again, controversially floored earlier in that 9th round, his eyes were clear. He was exchanging punches. He looked a bit tired. And Weeks just stepped in with, well, after no real punches had been landed. I think Romero landed maybe what was it now? I think it was a sort of a left hand to the sort of neck or shoulder blade of Barroso, and there was a few other punches went in, but nothing landed. And suddenly Weeks steps in and says, "That's your lot." Now maybe it was Barroso's body language he didn't like, because Barroso was looking tired. But I don't know. I just think this is a bad stoppage. And it was for the WBA super lightweight title. You've got to ask the question, how did Barroso and Romero even get into the position to fight for this title? Because Romero was coming off the loss to Gervonta Tank Davis. And that was almost a year ago, I think. It was late May 2022. He got stopped in 6 rounds. He was actually doing reasonably well against Tank until Tank chinned him. And in this, the opposite corner, you had Barroso, who, British fight fans will remember him about 8 years ago, beating Kevin Mitchell in 5 rounds and looking actually very, very good doing it. And then coming to back to Britain and fighting Anthony Crolla and getting chinned in 7 rounds. That was a body punch that finished him off. And then his career sort of dipped south a bit. He lost a couple of fights, one by KO to Akhmedov. That was back in 2018. And since then, he'd won 4 fights against, moderate opposition. Nothing really special, no really big names. So did he earn the shot at the vacant WBA title? No, I'm not really convinced. And also he's 40, and I have never seen anyone who is supposed to be 40 years of age look so old. I'm not joking. Facially, Barroso looks like he's 65 or 70. It's absolutely frightening. Anyway, he's a southpaw. And let's talk a little bit about the rest of the fight. Romero is an orthodox fighter, Barroso's southpaw, and instantly it looked like Romero didn't know how to handle a southpaw, because he started very, very slowly, very reticent, very sort of like he couldn't quite fathom what was in front of him. In the 2nd round, Barroso took advantage with the backhand, the left hand, left cross, landed flush on Rowley. Rowley staggered back to the ropes and slid down them, and it was a knockdown. He wasn't that badly hurt at all. He said afterwards he was slightly buzzed, but he looked all right to me. He got up. And then it was a case of nip and tuck. With the impression I got of the whole fight, the rounds were very repetitive, with Rowley being surprisingly cautious and not letting his hands go at all enough. And Barroso, probably because of his age, he's got to be more than 40 years of age, surely. He looks close to 50. Or like I say, he looks beyond 50, actually. But I'm talking about as an athlete. He looked like someone who had a lot of skills, but was a 50-year-old ex-fighter, kind of pushing his punches. His output was very minimal. You'd think, as Rowley was being so conservative with his output and so cautious, you'd think Barroso would go at him. That would probably be his best chance to win the fight. There again, if once it was revealed that Barroso was clearly, not the fighter he was slower, far less busy, you would have thought Rowley would have gone after him. And there were little pockets where Rowley would come forward and he would try and put the heat on him, and then Barroso would snap him with a counter, a pot shot, and that would kind of keep Rowley honest. It was an odd fight. It was an odd fight. It really was. odd in the sense that one guy sort of didn't seem to want to, and the other guy wanted to but couldn't. I'll let you decide who's who there. But yeah, then in the 9th round, there was this explosion from Rolly. Suddenly he came to life and he put it on Barroso early on in the round. Barroso was beginning to look tired. He really was looking every day his age. And Rolly hurt Barroso with a left hook. And then he sort of tugged him over. He threw a right hand that sort of pushed Barroso to the floor. And Weeks, who had a nightmare of an evening, he called it a knockdown. It should not have been a knockdown. Barroso was hurt, but it was not a knockdown. The punch that put him over was this Romero hooked his arm onto Barroso and sort of pulled him over. And you actually in the slow-mo, you can actually see him push him over. So definitely not a knockdown. But Barroso gets up and is looking absolutely knackered. And then Rolly comes forward, very explosive in pockets, Rolly. And Weeks steps in. Rolly got Barroso in the corner. Weeks steps in, and it's definitely a premature stoppage. But Rolly gets the win, 9th round. Rolly, everyone slags him off. I think he can be fun. He can be a fun fighter. I don't rate him particularly highly at all. He's got this WBA belt now, but I think you could probably find half a dozen super lightweights you'd pick to not just beat him, but stop him, because he is there for the taking. But it's not what you know or what you do, it's who you know and what you might do. And Rolly, being a bit of a character, he can be promoted. He's 27, of course. If Barroso had won this belt at 40, how would they have promoted him? He's an old man. But when you're 27, and when you've got a bit of character, you wear garish clothing and you're very, noticeable. You stand out from the crowd. Yeah, I guess they can promote him, and they'll carry on promoting him. But yeah, it was a bit of a non-event, more of a fight to be remembered for the controversy rather than the performance of Rolando Romero. But he will get big fights, he'll get big paychecks. A Tank rematch, I don't think they could sell that at all. He said he wants Tank. But interestingly, in the post-fight interview, Rolly said, yeah, I'd fight Tank again, but really I want Ryan Garcia. That's an interesting one. He's certainly more capable of beating Garcia than he is Tank. Although in the first fight with Tank, he did okay. But Garcia and Rolly, I wonder why he wants that. I guess that's where the money is, because Garcia is a pretty boy and has got all the Instagram followers, and maybe Rolly sees that as a bigger fight in terms of money. And also, if he was to beat Garcia, I don't think he would, but if he was to beat Garcia, I suppose he could then say, he could compare and contrast the performances with Tank and Garcia and Rolly and Garcia, and that would set up the rematch with Tank. It's possible, but I'm one of those guys now who just says, wake me up when we get there. All these permutations, all these possible fights. And, since Josh Taylor has got rid of 3 of the belts, or had 3 taken off him, all these different possibilities are there. You can pontificate about them, and people like me can make videos about them. But until they happen, it's all just piss and wind, really, isn't it? Anyway, what did you think of Rolly? Did you watch this fight? What do you think of Rolly in general? What do you think he should do next? Do you think Barroso should retire? I do personally. Yeah, what do you think of the performance? What do you think of the fight? I didn't think it was particularly exciting. The rounds were too similar, too repetitive. But leave your comments below and I'll answer them. And thank you as always for your time. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the subscribe button. It takes a second. And of course the like button as well helps us out if you hit that like button on the video. Thank you as always for your time. We'll speak again soon, and bye for now.